Good morning, everyone. It is still morning. I feel like we've done so much learning today. It already feels like a lot of hours of great stuff. I am Linda Ryan. I am your program manager here at the Chamber. I'd like to take a moment to mention again and thank our conference session sponsors. That would be Univest and Merck Sharp and Dome Federal Credit Union. We have a wonderful, very popular, it turns out, speaker today. Her name is Darla DeMorrow. I will let you talk about yourself a little bit, Darla, but I'm happy to welcome everybody to Sort and Succeed, Women's Empowerment Through Organizing Strategies. Take it away, Darla.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I never take this for granted. First of all, let me just check sound. Everybody can hear, right? Okay. Also, never take that for granted, right? So I am going to ask for people to start engaging, first of all, through the chat, because I can't see you. You can see me and maybe the other folks, and hopefully you can see my slides. But I really want to get to know what's going on with you. So I'd like to start with something fun. And here's what I want. I want to start with having you tell me something good. So have you treated yourself over the last, let's say, week, maybe 2 weeks? Have you treated yourself to some type of a reward, a treat, something that you've done good for yourself? This term self-care has come up in almost every session. It's not quite that, and it can be something little. It could be, some favorite dessert or taking your kids out for a walk or something, free, little like that. It could be something bigger. Yummy food. I got a facial, dinner with a best friend. Oh, that is the best one, isn't it? I love that one. Massage. Oh, I'm so jealous. I haven't had a massage in years now. I hate to say that. Currently enjoying a peanut butter mini cup. Nice. Watching Halloween movies with my family. Oh, that's so funny. We're having lots of discussions about Halloween movies in my house right now. Went shopping for myself, which maybe is, again, something you haven't done in a very long time. Had a banana nut muffin from a favorite place. Nice. I love things like that because there's no clutter left over. Prioritize my health over meetings and scheduled overdue appointments. Girlfriend, I am so glad to hear that, because that is going to be our next epidemic that we're dealing with. Concert and dinner with a high school friend, dinner with sister-in-law and daughter. Well, we've got a theme going here, and that is awesome. Now I'm going to ask you, I can't read them all, but I can't read them all out loud, but I encourage you to scroll through these, because I want you to get some ideas for yourself if you haven't been treating yourself well, or if you're trying to get your organizing projects done. And we'll talk more about that. Oh, here's one. I'm expecting my first child in April, and I just bought a car seat. Okay. That is the first time I've heard that as a reward, but it's definitely something that you did for yourself, and you're way ahead of schedule if you are expecting in April. So yay you. I love that. Started with a health coach. Awesome. Nice long hot bath. A bath is a great one because it's good on so many levels, and it's free. Book club with girlfriends, brunch with a friend. You folks are seriously social. Awesome. Awesome. Dinner with best friends. If I've skipped over yours, I apologize. I just want to make sure that I kind of skim through them all. Bought boots that I have been waiting on for years. Oh yes, I have not been in TJ Maxx except for just recently in 18 months. And TJ Maxx is pretty much my hangout spot when there's not a global pandemic going on. And I have literally been looking for black boots in a certain, make and model for at least 3 years. And I finally found them under $50, about $50 or $60. And I snatched those babies up. So Christine McLaughlin, I am totally with you on the buying boots that you've been waiting on to show up for years. So I love that. So I wanted to start out with these things that we have been doing for ourselves over the last week or so, because it changes the energy in an otherwise sort of maybe unfun topic that that some of us don't love. I love organizing. I am a professional organizer for a living. So I love to talk about organizing, but if that's not you, I wanted to start out with something that does get, does float your boat, does get your juices flowing. Because I really want this time that we have together to be about empowering you through organizing strategies. Now, when you think about organizing, you may be thinking about the Pinterest version of organizing or the Instagram version of organizing. And I'm here to tell you, as a professional organizer, that is just all crap. Okay. And I know this is being recorded, but it is not real life. What we do look for, however, is we look for the intersection of space, time, and information, and where those three come together, and where you have strategies in place for organizing your stuff, organizing your time, and organizing your information, where those three come together, that's the organizing sweet spot. And I want to give you strategies today on being able to live in your world, live in real life, and get organized in the way that works for you and empowers you and brings you peace ultimately in your life. So I've been working as a professional organizer for 17 years. It's been a full-time gig since I left my job in the corporate environment as a project manager, which I had for over 12 years. So if you do the math, it's over 25 years of getting organized and helping my clients and my employees and my friends get organized. And what I've done as an organizer, this will not surprise you, is to create a system that anybody can follow. I was doing this with clients, realizing that I was doing over and over again the same things to help them get organized. And so I actually codified that into its own system. And it really addresses the things that people get stuck with when they think about organizing or when they think about trying to get organized. And you yourself have probably said at some point, I want to get organized, but I'm just such a procrastinator. Well, what I found when I entered the business was that there were and there are a lot of ways to get organized, but the things that you'll read about, many of them, in fact, my favorite when I started, sort of assumed that you were already in the organizing activity when it started. And I realized that getting started is actually the biggest problem for many people. In fact, there's two problems that Sort and Succeed addresses. And I'll go through those steps with you in just a second, but they are on the screen, so you can certainly take a screenshot if you'd like. But the two things that Sort and Succeed addresses is getting started and feeling finished. And so people think, oh, I can't get started because it's going to take too much time. There are too many emotional triggers. I'm not ready. I'm going to need help. Things are too heavy. Things are overwhelming. Who wants pie, right? Who wants to do anything other than organize when you think about the big organizing projects or even some of the little ones in your life? So I wanted to address those and systematize the way that you can organize anything, be it your space, your office, your work life, your time, your calendar, the information on your computer, your email. Oh, dare I even bring that up? So all of this is about giving you tools to get organized. And these steps, I'm going to go over them very briefly here, and then we'll come back around at the end and loop back around to them. But they are: start with a written plan that's 5 words or less. So, and it needs to be a project that you can accomplish in 15 minutes or as much as 3 hours, but it has to be in between 15 minutes and 3 hours. So start with a written plan. And step 2 is organize your things or your information into groups. Step 3 is where you reduce, release, and reset. Step 4 is tweaking your space or your result. And step 5 is to succeed and celebrate. And that's why I started with tell me something good and these things that you've done for yourself in the last week, because I'm going to take those things that you may already be doing. And some of you actually may feel guilty about having had the time away from your family or taken the time out of your schedule to do some of the things that you put in the chat a minute ago. But I want to show you how those things are actually not guilt-inducing. They're actually part of the organizing process, and you may decide to do more of them to feel even more successful and train your brain to become even more organized. So, did you know that putting up a cat or a dog in your advertising or your marketing can increase your marketing results by over 300%, depending on what results you're looking at or what study you're looking at? It can be as much as 2,000%, depending on whether you're going for likes or comments or advertising return on investment. But 300%, somewhere around 300% is a well-known number. So I've included my cat today. Her name is Nina, so that all the cat lovers can immediately be drawn to me and feel like they want to listen more to what I'm saying. But also, even if you're a dog person, you're allowed to come along with us on this journey. And even if you're a no pet person, here's why my cat's really in here, because cats are sneaky. They look like they're not doing much, but they are always, they are very routinized. They love routines, and they appear to be lazy, but they work really hard. In fact, I remember reading this story about, it was in the magazine Guidepost. I don't know if any of you have ever read that, but there was a gentleman who was talking about, he was telling the story. He lived in New York City, and he would walk by the storefront every morning, and there was this big orange cat that was in the store window in the front. And he was just lazing every morning in the sun. And the author of the story said, you know, and I just thought, what a lazy bum. I mean, I don't like cats, and how crazy is that? And as he was walking by, and he did this every morning for weeks and weeks and months and months. And as he was walking by one morning, and he stopped to just say how lazy this cat was again to himself, this woman sidled up beside him and said, isn't that great? That cat's laying there. And he said, what are you talking about? This cat's so lazy. And she says, oh, you don't know. Well, this building that this cat lives in, there used to be a big rodent problem, but the store owner bought the cat. And so now the cat, every night he works and he gets rid of the rodents. And so when he's in the morning, he's done his job. And so he comes and he finds the best spot in the house in the sunshine, and it's in this window. And I just love walking by and seeing this cat, having earned his keep last night, you know, enjoying his reward. And the author of that story, and I read that story literally decades ago, and the author of that story, you know, snapped to and realized that his perspective was completely 365 degrees off. And that what he didn't see, what he didn't know, was the story about how hard the cat was working, and that what he was seeing was actually the result and the reward. So it's a fun story. Thank you, Dawn, for saying that Nina is beautiful. But it's really, I want you to think more cat-like. Is it really fair to ask us women to be doing more, to be taking on more organizing? And here I want to shift your perspective. Like I just told you, the author of that story shifted his perspective about what organizing is all about. So who am I? You got a brief introduction to me, and I encourage you to come to heartworkorg.com and learn more about me. But just briefly, I have been a professional organizer for the last 17 years, coming out of the tech industry as a project manager. And I am a certified professional organizer and a member of the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. Half of you in the crowd are going, wow, I want to be that. And the other half are saying, wow, I never knew something like that existed. So it's a fun organization. As you can imagine, when organizers get together, things are really organized. But also, I am an author. I have taken the Sort and Succeed system, and I have fleshed it out and shared my system that I use with hands-on with clients, and I've shared it with people all over the world in 3 books. The first of which is called Organizing Your Home with Sort and Succeed. The second is Organizing Your Kitchen with Sort and Succeed. And the third book is up on the screen here. It's called The Upbeat Organized Home Office, Organizing Your Home Office with Sort and Succeed. And I had great timing on this one. It was published January of 2020. And that was just 2 months before the world shut down and everybody went home to their home office to work. As a treat for you today, I made sure that this book is on sale on Amazon.com. In the Kindle version, it's only $1.99 today, and it'll probably be there through the weekend. So if you'd like to pick up this book, you're welcome to, but I'm going to share with you Sort and Succeed and the secrets of Sort and Succeed as we go through the rest of our time together. So why are we asking women to do one more thing? Oh, by the way, do I have any men on the in the audience today? I don't think I've seen any men so far, but if I do, I'd love to know that. Now, there is no male bashing going on.
I can tell you, Darla, I do not think we have any men.
I didn't think so, but thank you for confirming. Okay, so we're in a safe place. We can all talk about what we deal with as women. So here's the question when I consult with my executive clients. Here's the question that I ask them. When you come into your office or when you come into your home office, how do you know what to do next? And think about that for a second. How do you know when you get off this conference at the end of today and you shut down your computer or you shut down the Zoom link and you go back to your computer, how do you know what to do? I usually get one of 2 answers. Either what's on top of the pile from yesterday or whatever's on fire. Whatever is the squeakiest wheel and whatever is making the most pain for me and my family or me and my work group. So why are we asking women to do one more thing? Why am I going to ask you to get organized? Because it's not one more thing. It is the thing. Organizing is, and you've probably done this yourself. You probably looked at your organized friends or your organized colleague and said, I want what they have. I want to be peaceful. I've had people say to me, it seems like you're all over the place. I see you all on social media and, the books and you're speaking every place. It's not because of any other reason other than I'm organized. I have figured out where to be and where to spend my time in a strategic fashion. And yeah, I will tell you, there are places that I'm not. I am not on Twitter, for example. I took myself off of Twitter several years ago because it's not strategic. It's not strategic for me. And that was one way that I could make sure that I was using my time as an example to be organized, but also every place else that I am, it's systematized. Systematizing saves you time, money, and emotional energy. And, if you're on this call and you're thinking, gosh, I hope she tells us to be organized because I am not an organized person, or I've never been able to learn how to be organized, or I just stink at organizing. I'm here to tell you that organizing is not a moral failing. The people who who are organized are not better people. They may be better at some skills, but they are not better people. And likewise, some of the kindest and just most wonderful people that I've ever known have been organizing train wrecks. And so the two don't equate together. If you feel like you are not the best organized person, you are still brilliant at something. And very often it ends up being people skills, or in the networking session right ahead of this, one person described herself, her one word that she picked was caring. And I thought, oh, that is never a word that I would use. That's never the first word that I would use to describe myself, but that's something that I want, okay? So all of us, I truly believe that God gave each of us different skills, that we all come to our lives in our adulthood, and we're on this earth for different reasons. If we were all me, or if we were all you, we would be missing part of what makes us human. And so we all work together, and we all have something to learn we all have something to share. I truly believe that as an organizer. So is being systematized, or is systematizing everything the thing? It is to get you towards your goal. And that's what this conference is all about. It's powering your potential. So how do you know what to do next? Well, there are some great tools that can help you figure out what to do next and help you figure out how to prioritize, when I know that's a hard skill for people too. But again, it's a skill. It's not a moral failing. You weren't born knowing how to organize. You weren't born unable to organize. It's something that you can learn, just like you can learn how to fry a perfect egg, or how to get on a Zoom call, right? I've been teaching Zoom for the last probably 5 years. I used to be a teacher with the instructor with the SCORE organization, and you're probably familiar with SCORE as a part of the Small Business Administration. And 5 years ago, I was training on Zoom, and nobody knew what it was. They didn't think they needed it because everybody has a phone in their pocket. Why would they need Zoom? Well, here and 18 months into the global pandemic, you're all doing something that you were not doing 2 years ago. So you're able to learn new skills. I just proved it to you. But let me give you a couple of tools that will help you even more. One is the Eisenhower matrix. Now, Stephen Covey actually popularized this, but General Eisenhower is, as far as I know, the one who came up with it. And it's a 4-part grid that has, on the left, you'll see it's a way to identify what your most important tasks and projects are in your life. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the urgent and not urgent categories. And on the top, you'll see important versus not important. And if you think about the things in your life, the things that you want to organize, you will see that some of them end up in that urgent and important category. And going back to my last question, how do you know what to do next? Well, that fire drill category is where a lot of us spend our time. It's where things end up when you've procrastinated too long. The not important but urgent category, you ought to ask yourself why you're even spending time there. And the not important and not urgent is, I mean, really, it is Twitter. And it's all the other busy work in our life. It's a lot of the social media out there. But the important and not urgent category, that's where the sweet spot is. That's where our strategic goals lie. And that's where a lot of the organizing projects are that we want to get to, but we haven't yet made time for. And if you start to routinize, if you start to turn everything into a routine and start to create space in your calendar for those organizing projects, you'll see those strategic initiatives in your professional and your personal life. You'll see those come to mind and come to fruition. How did I get 3 books written? Look, I have 2 children right now. They are 12 and 14, so I have been in the thick of it during the pandemic. But I have been publishing books for the last 4 or 5 years. And my children are small. I own a small business with employees, and I work 5, 6, 7 days a week. How do I find time to get books written in between there? Those are strategic initiatives. And you have something in your life that's exactly like that. So you might think that the problem with productivity is that you don't just have enough time, or that you've got too much on your plate. But the problem is that you might need to use systems like the Eisenhower matrix to ferret out which items have to be done to keep you out of jail and to put food on the table, that sort of thing, and which items are strategic. They're still very important, but they're not so urgent that they've taken up the daily space in your time and your calendar in your head, and figure out how to make time for those. Organizing is a skill that can be learned. I can't say it often enough. You can learn to be organized, and you can learn new things. So I'm going to ask you to grab a pen pen and paper or your gadget, if that's how you take notes. And I'm going to ask you to write down 3 organizing projects that have been languishing on your back burner. Could be personal, could be professional, could be something related to your kids. Whatever it is, I want you to literally write down 3 organizing projects. You don't have to put them in the chat. You can if you want to, but write them down in front of you. And leave some room, because we're going to come back and you might need to adjust those just a smidge. In fact, I hope you will before our time is up. So they might include, I will give you, while you're writing down, if maybe you can only think of 1 or 2, or you're afraid to put down the 3rd one, I'm going to list off a few that my clients call me about. They've got important projects like the getting the car back in the garage before it snows, email, closets, the basement or the attic, getting your resume organized and updated, your finances. There was a session right before this that I attended on getting your finances organized, and Angela, my employee, actually attended that. We were talking in between about organizing finances. Important, but maybe not urgent. The younger you are, the more important it is, because when you are older, the steps that you took early on are going to be so important because of compound interest and the changes that occur over years and decades. That is so important in finances. It actually is important in organizing as well. Organizing your digital files, organizing your photos. These are all things that might be on your list. You might be dealing with parents with ailing health and trying to get them organized around their current health situations, but also feeling anxious that when they're not here anymore, as our speaker this morning, Kimberly, described, her life changed when she lost her mother because of their relationship, but also usually people that are sort of in the mid part of their life and they lose their parents are also having to deal with their household and dealing with their dispensing of their things and figuring out what in the household is important and should be passed down. You might be in the midst of a job search. So many people are right now. Maybe you want to write a book. There was discussion about that earlier this morning. Or taking care of your most important investment, which is the home that you live in and that you own. Home maintenance very often gets pushed to the side, not necessarily because you don't have money, but because you don't have time to make the decisions, the big decisions that need to be made about updating and maintaining your home. And holidays are coming up. Maybe that's something that you're anxious about organizing around. So do you all have, you can put in the chat, do you all have 3 written down? You don't have to tell me what they are, but do you have them? Just go ahead and let me know. I've got the chat running up here and I want to know, did you write down a couple of organizing projects? Okay. So here's the thing. Boring people don't call professional organizers. They don't come to a conference like this either. Their sock drawers are already organized. So if you're feeling stressed about the 3 organizing projects that you just put down, it's actually a good sign. It tells me that you're an interesting person. You have a lot going on in your life. You have a lot of relationships, or maybe not a lot, but you have important relationships that you are prioritizing already. And I know that about you. I've been watching the chat and hearing, your concerns about home life and professional life. And all of these are absolutely normal. You are not, something's not wrong with you because you have anxiety or concerns about getting these organizing projects done. But the Eisenhower matrix and Sort and Succeed and the 80-20 rule coming up next is how we're going to deal with this. And by the way, the reason I asked about men a minute ago is because, hey, let's put it on the table. We are now talking about invisible work. You might have also heard it called the mental load. And if you've read anything about mothers during the pandemic, you know that the burden that was put on women in general and mothers specifically is that when our children came home and when everybody came home to work, and that we had to readjust daily, thinking about how to keep everybody safe, ourselves, our children, our spouse, our in my case, my clients, because I go into my clients' homes, and there was a time when we couldn't do that safely. We are going into clients' homes now, but I'm still putting things in place to keep my clients safe that I didn't have to do 2 years ago. So this idea of all the things that have to be done that go beyond, that aren't in your job, are not in your job description, right? And they go beyond getting food on the table every night. These are the things that we as business owners, or we as business leaders, or as scientists, as the professionals that we are, those are job descriptions, right? But then on top of that, we have all these other criteria that we are also carrying on our shoulders. A good example is my kids have pediatric doctor's appointments on Monday. Who scheduled that appointment? I did. My husband's a wonderful guy, and I am not male bashing here, but I am always the one to schedule the dental appointments, the eye appointments, the counselor appointments. My kid has an IEP. I am always the one to schedule the appointments with the school. That's part of the mental load that we as women typically have. There are some really good books about this out there. I will tell you one of them if you need more books to read. One of them is by Bridget Schulte. It's called Overwhelmed, and the subtitle is Work, Love, and Play When No One Has the Time. It was published in 2014, and I will tell you, it might make you mad. It actually made me mad when I read it. And I've been working through what invisible work is in my life and what I'm willing to take on and what I'm willing to delegate and organize into somebody else's set of responsibilities. A colleague of mine in the organizing field, her name is Regina Clark. She actually is right now in the midst of publishing a book on the mental load that women often have. So again, if I'm telling you these things because if you're feeling them, they are real. It's not just you. We are, it's been said that we are in this boat together throughout the pandemic. That's not exactly true. We are all in the same storm of the pandemic, but we have different boats. And so if your boat is tiny and rickety, again, you need more skills, you need more tools like the ones that you're getting at this conference today. If your boat is big and it's a yacht and it's really sailing away very well, and you've got great family supports and you've got a great boss and a wonderful work environment and you've got it all figured out, that is great. It doesn't mean that you've had smooth sailing throughout the storm, but it also means that you might have more resources to reach out to a friend who's in need and say, you know what, I can see you're struggling with organizing. Let me share with you some things that I've learned. So here's another tool. And actually these two things on this list, the 80-20 rule and the 5-year test, are two rules that I live by every day. As a professional organizer, these are some of my tools that are indispensable. So the 80-20 rule says that in fact, I teach a whole class on this, but the 80-20 rule basically says that we get 80% of our results from 20% of the activities or 20% of the effort. You see this all the time, actually, all over your life. Now that I've told you about it, you'll see it all the time. We wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. If you're a person who doesn't quite get through your email every day, that's not unusual at all. But I guarantee you that you're reading about at least 20%, and the other 80% is going to spam, or it's just never getting read. And that's not where the big bang for the buck is. It's 20%. It's called the Pareto principle because it was identified by a 19th century economist who understood or came to recognize that 20% of the Italian gentry, the Italian population, owned 80% of the land in Italy. And that was his first recognition that, there's an interesting thing going on here. So his name was Vilfredo Pareto. And so now it's called the Pareto principle, or simply the 80-20 rule. And I ask my employees, and I ask myself all the time, is the activity in front of me right now one of the 80% or one of the 20%? If it's one of the 80%, if I'm working on something that is low priority, is that where I should be spending my time? Or do I have things on my desk that I'm not working on or that I'm feeling guilty or anxious about, that is really one of the 20% most critical things in my business and in my life? And if it's a 20%er, I need to make time and put it on my calendar, schedule it into Outlook, and make sure that I actually create time. A good friend of mine said, who's not an organizer, she said in a social setting a few years ago, she said, you really can't make time. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, you know what? She's right. You can't make time. You have to create the place. You have to carve out the time in the 24 hours that you have. And that's what I do all day long, is ask myself, are the 20% of my high priority items scheduled into my calendar? That's how you write a book. Somebody earlier in Kimberly's session, in the keynote session, asked, how do you write a book? And the way that you do it is you prioritize it above all the other things in your life. You prioritize it above Netflix, and you prioritize it above going out, and volunteering on committees that you're just one in the crowd. So the 80-20 rule, really important. And also the 5-year test, it's really similar to the 80-20 rule. And it dovetails really nicely. And it basically is this: ask yourself, is what you're working on right now going to make a difference in 5 years? 5 years from now, will you look back and say, in October of 2021, I'm so glad I went to that women's conference, Power Up Your Potential, because it changed the course of my life? For many of you, the answer will be yes for that particular question. But you can apply this 5-year test to anything in your life. 5 years ago, I was writing a book. I was spending time. Actually, there's a funny story about that. 5 years ago, I had foot surgery, and that foot surgery put me on my back for 2 solid weeks. I did not get off the couch for 2 solid weeks. And I knew going into that foot surgery, it was a planned surgery. And I knew that it was a 12-week total recovery time. Now, for an entrepreneur, that is scary as heck. For an entrepreneur, finding out that you can't work for 12 weeks or you can't do what you've always done for 12 weeks is scary. So while I was on the couch for that first 2 weeks, I actually started just writing my articles that I normally write for my blog. And I just kept going. And it turned into the Sort and Succeed book, the first one. So 5 years ago, I was working on something that I didn't know where it was going at the time. But once I got to the point where I had a book in my hand, I had a draft of a book, I said to myself, is this going to be important 5 years from now if I take time out of my regular schedule to get it published? Because as Kimberly shared this morning, publishing a book is no small task. And you can't just add it on to the things that you're doing. So that 5-year test, I said, yeah, it's probably going to be important that I have this book for the rest of my life. And I can tell you that it is one of the things that changed the course of my life. And now I have not just one book, I actually have 4 that are published. So these are all tools. I'm giving you tools that hopefully you will look back on and say, aha, these are things that I'm using to organize my life. I don't care how many white bins or clear bins you have in your pantry. That is not the kind of organizing that is going to change your life and that's going to help you reach your potential. So let me share with you a couple more things about a system, because I've been talking about a system, but what does that mean? Many of you are in the business world and you're thinking, okay, a system is step 1, 2, 3. No, that's a process. Step 1, 2, and 3, that's a process. Those are the steps that you go through. But a system actually adds on 3 more things. Starts with a process, includes a place, includes supplies that you need to complete your process, and includes the time that you've carved out to work through the process. So if you just think about a simple system, let's talk about where you put your keys when you come home. Most of you, hopefully, either have a hook by the door or a bowl that you put your keys into, or maybe it's a pocket in your purse. There might be other versions of that. But your process is walk in the door, put your keys someplace. Those are 2 steps, very easy. But there's a place that you've designated. I hung a hook near my door. So that's a place. and supplies. And every time I don't do it, I'm thinking, gosh darn it, I wish I'd have just taken that 10 seconds to put my keys where they belong so that I didn't have to look for them the next time. That's the full definition of a system. I want to give you an example of a system that I use in the business world. Whoops, hang on. In the business world, and you can too. It's called the tickler system. And I actually have mine sitting behind me, but because you may not be able to see that very well, it's on the screen as well. So this is something that you can get off of Amazon. If you're interested in where, you can email me later. But it's a file holder with 12 hanging files in it. Nothing fancy, okay? You probably have all these supplies already at home. It's 12 monthly files labeled January through December. And the tickler system, the way I teach it, is 2 parts, 2 steps. You put things in and you take things out. But the way that you do that, 15 minutes a week, will help you eliminate piles on your countertop, on your desk, and it will also help you eliminate missed deadlines, because the things that you need to look for aren't laying in a pile somewhere. They're actually in the tickler system, ready for you to act on them when you need to act on them. The reason you have 12 files is because if you've got something that comes across your desk and you need to take action on it, but you don't need it today, you simply slip that item into the month when you're going to need to see it again. And every month on a schedule that you've already determined with a calendar appointment. So I ask my clients, when we set these up, I ask my clients to set up an Outlook calendar appointment that's recurring with an audible alarm. And it's a 15-minute a week appointment. And all you're doing during that 15 minutes is putting things in and taking things out. And then after that tickler file appointment, which is only 15 minutes a week, then you go and actually do the work that you've built up in the time frame right when it needs to be done. So it's kind of just in time. If you're in a manufacturing environment, you've probably heard, or you probably live by the just in time manufacturing processes. Which we won't talk about because that's messing up our global supply chain right now. That's a whole nother topic. But the tickler system will allow you to get out of your piles and to put things right where you need to have them so that you can act on them in the right time frame. Now, if this idea sounds good to you, you can go to, I have a link at the end. It's homeoffice.heartworkorg.com, and you can download the free job aid that will explain the tickler system in more detail. If paper is not your problem, but you still need to get more organized, I want to just share with you that the task management tools, otherwise known as apps, that are out there are something that you should be using right now. If you are still keeping sticky notes and keeping to-do lists in a book or on a legal pad, it's outdated and it's not going to work for you much longer. Data comes at us too fast and we have too many responsibilities anymore for us to be working solely in a paper environment. So here's the thing about a to-do list. If you're like, I've tried to-do lists so many times and they never work for me, or I lose them, or I keep starting them over and over and over again. Here's the thing about your to-do list. It's not a place for guilt. Kind of like that old saying, there's no crying in baseball. There is no guilt in to-do lists. It's like money. To-do lists are agnostic. They are not here to provide guilt or to make you feel anything. They are, in fact, your other brain. In fact, it's your awesome, I call it your awesome to-do list, what you forgot about your awesome to-do list, because your to-do list, I don't know about you, but whenever I walk into Target, you know, even just a quick run to Target, I've always got 4 things on my list. And I can only remember at least 2 of them, maybe 3. I always forget that 4th item if it's a mental list. I have to write things down. And when most of us, I think everybody here is on this call, in this session, and in this conference, because we have professional as well as personal responsibilities. And there's just too much required of us in the modern world to try and keep it all up here. So I've got 4 project and task tools up on the screen. If you are not using one of them, I encourage you to check them out. Microsoft Outlook includes a tool called To Do. It's free. If you're already using Outlook at work, you got to check into it. It's been updated and revamped over the last 18 months. While many of us were thinking about other things, we weren't really figuring out what Microsoft was doing in the background, but they've really improved their task management tool. So check that out. They also have a planner, which is a project management tool, also free, also goes along with your Microsoft subscription if you have one. And it's really a great tool to work with bigger projects like home improvement and job search and resume revamping and all the other organizing projects that you wrote down a little bit ago. And then if you don't like the Microsoft tool or you're looking for something different, Toodle-Do and Todoist are both 2 apps to check into. And there is a free version and a paid version of each of them. So check those out. Trello is another one that somebody's mentioned in the chat. And Google Keep, there are plenty of them out there. These are the ones that I like and that I train my clients on, but certainly there are plenty to check into. All right, so I'm really encouraging you to systematize everything. We talked about simple things like where do you put your keys? We talked about things like organizing your email. Organizing your email is something that everybody wants to do. I don't organize my email. I'm a professional and I don't do it. What I do, however, is I have the system do some organizing for me. So I have taken the time to set up rules in my email program so that some of the emails that I want to receive, but I don't want to read them the minute they come in, they get filtered into file folders and they are there waiting for me when I need to go and see them. So rules is an example of how you can, rules in email is an example of how you can systematize your work life. And I was talking with somebody yesterday. I teach an Outlook class and getting the most out of Outlook. And the host actually said to me after the class, I used to have a few rules and then I switched my system and they all kind of, they get deleted sometimes when you do that. And he said, I haven't quite gotten around to setting them back up. And we chatted about it for a while. And I said, rules are one of those things you spend 5 minutes up front and it'll save you hours over the next couple of years. He said, I know. And I'm pretty sure after that discussion we had, he went and set up a few more rules. So that's an example. Systematizing doesn't have to be hard, and go for the small wins, okay? It's just like brushing your teeth. Sure, as parents, if you have children, you know that it takes years and years to get into that solid adult habit of brushing your teeth twice a day. But as adults, we don't think of that as organizing. It's 2 minutes twice a day, right? That's a system. That is a system. That's the kind of easy win that we're talking about. If you systematize the little things, you'll make room in your life for the bigger things, like writing a book or taking charge of your finances. You make room by systematizing the little things. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are famous for their pared down wardrobe, their minimalistic wardrobe. I think Steve Jobs was a black turtleneck, blue jeans, and white sneakers, if I'm correct. The reason that they did that was not because they don't have any fashion sense, maybe they don't, but the reason that they did that, and Obama too, he's famous for, he had 2 suit choices, and I think it was black or brown. They don't want to think about the decisions. They don't want to have to make those decisions in the morning because they know there's such a thing as decision fatigue. And those decisions that you make earlier in the morning will take away from your mental ability to make decisions later in the day. So that brings us back to Sort and Succeed. I've systematized how to organize everything for you. Start with a written plan. Write it down. Things get real when you write them down. And that written plan is 5 words or less. And that doesn't mean something like organize the house, okay? It's more like clear off my desk. That you can do in 15 minutes. Or organize my daughter's top shelf in the closet. It might be 6 or 7 words, but keep it short and keep it small enough of a project that you can accomplish it within 15 minutes to 3 hours. Any more than that, you're going to be distracted and you're going to not get finished. And that's not what we're after. When you sort and succeed, you organize into groups. You don't start by throwing things out. That's a myth with organizing. If I ask you to decide about your single black t-shirt, and I hold it up and I say, do you want to keep this? You'll say, I don't know. It used to be my favorite t-shirt. It used to be, I used to wear it. What if I need it for gardening? What if I need a rag? That's not going to help you at all. Okay. But if I put all of your 30 black t-shirts together, you can very easily go down the line and say, keep, donate, keep, toss, keep, donate. And that's because they're right next together. You can compare the merits of one against the other. So first, before you try and throw things out, organize things into group. It also brings your stress level down, because you're not asking yourself to throw things out. You're not severing that emotional connection until you have all the good stuff in front of you. Step 3 is where you can make logical and sometimes even emotional decisions about releasing and reducing. And that's also where you start to put your space back together. Tweak your space. You're always making changes. And going back to brushing teeth, we've brushed our teeth for, decades, right? But you can always tweak. You can always get a new toothbrush, get a better toothbrush, an electronic toothbrush. You can change how you're flossing. You can change up, but there's new, I want to say Listerine, but mouthwashes, you can change how you're doing that. So tweaking will continue to happen. Organizing is, we talk about it like it's a project, but it's really a process. It's not a once and done. Okay, so you'll be continuing, as long as you're alive, you'll be continuing to organize, and then succeed and celebrate. And that is where we're going to loop back, and we're going to think about what we said at the very beginning, those things that you did at the start, those things that you listed out at the start of my session here. Those are things that you can reward yourself with once you've organized, or you've made progress on, or you've completed an organizing process. And the reason it's succeed and celebrate, it's a little bit of neuroscience, more than we have time to go into today. It's in the book. But what you're doing is you're actually training your brain. So forget self-care. If that feels and sounds too self-indulgent for you, think about it. Treat yourself like you treat the young children in your life. Treat yourself like you treat an employee. The reason that you say, add a girl, add a boy, the reason that you hand gift certificates out, the reason that you give time off to your employees for a job well done, that's because you want to reward them. That's because you want to motivate them and encourage them. And don't you want to do the same thing for yourself? Well, if you succeed and take the time to claim the reward for completing or making progress on your organizing project, you will continue to train your brain. Self-care is not selfish. It's actually a neurological imperative. So I'm here to help you feel empowered, not overwhelmed. So I'm here to say you don't have to feel overwhelmed. Succeed and celebrate to achieve your potential. I did mention 2 things that I really would love for you to take advantage of, and whoever's moderating this, Linda and Teresa, you might have a question or 2 at the end here. And the two goodies that I have for you, one is a free download. You can get that at homeoffice.heartworkorg.com, and I encourage you to do that today. And if you are interested in picking up the Kindle version of my book, it is on sale for you specifically at for $1.99. I put it on sale so that you'd have access to it through the holiday weekend. I figured why not put it on through the end of October, but do pick it up today at amazon.com if you'd like help in the area that I talked about today, getting organized. And if you do want to connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you have a question, and we're running out of time here, but if you have a question and you want to connect with me or have a brief conversation, please do so via email. I will read it and I will respond. So that is what I have for you today. Linda, how are we doing on questions? I tried to keep up on the chat, but I know you did a better job than I did.
Yeah, just lots of nice comments in here. Does anyone in our last minute or two have a question that wasn't addressed? I think there was a lot of information, and I don't know about you, but I kind of am looking forward to doing some organizing tonight when I get home.
Yay!
You really motivated
that's
me.
the win that I was going for.
And I have some specific and manageable projects in mind.
Yeah.
See, I see some, yeah, absolutely is coming through. So I think you definitely got us all thinking as we go off to have our lunch.
Yes, we do have something after this, and I think it's lunch, so we don't have a lot of time. Just real quick, somebody asked about the right brainers who struggle being organized in a left brain world. Listen, most people, when they say that, they're saying, I'm too creative to be organized, or I'm too creative to be pinned down. And that is a complete myth. You may need help getting organized. You may need to think about what systems exist in your world. But what we know, I find this very interesting. What we know about the most creative people and the most productive and the most successful artists, for instance. Oh, we knew that was going to happen at least once today. What we know about those successful creatives is that they have either hired professionals to help them get and stay organized. So they have apprentices, they've hired professional organizers. Most of the people that I work with, by the way, are not hoarders. That's a myth. Most of the people that I work with are executives who are trying to get to the next level. Okay, so professional organizer doesn't mean that you failed. Hiring a professional organizer means that you are trying to reach your potential. And that's what this conference is all about. So I hope that gives you hope and a plan forward. Look at your systems, look at the small systems that you have in place, and train your brain, reward yourself. Those 5 steps of Sort and Succeed are neurologically based. And if you want to learn more about that, pick up Organizing Your Home with Sort and Succeed, because it's not just do this, do that. I am a student of neuroscience, and I talk about some of the Nobel Prize winners and what their research has told me about what my clients are dealing with. So more.
Darla, is there a code to get that $199 price, or is that open right now?
It's open for everybody. It's just on Amazon.com. That the Upbeat Organized Home Office, that is on sale for everybody right now, but I did it specifically because I was coming here and I wanted to make sure that there was no reason that you couldn't get the help that you needed.
Love it. I see Claire jumped in and said you can see it at $199. So we've already got people jumping out there. So clearly this was a very helpful and valuable session for us, Darla. And I thank you so very much on behalf of Teresa and our staff today. Thrilled to have you here. Thanks for referencing PYP and for jumping into some of our other sessions as well and referencing them. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody that spent time here today. And I am just sending you love and my fondest desire for you to go and be your best self.
Thanks again, Darla. To the group, take a break, have a little lunch, and we'll see you at the next session at 12:30. Thanks, everyone. See you, Darla.
Bye.
Hey, Darla.
Hey,
nice job.
We're still about
15 minutes hanging in. So, but I just wanted to say that was really awesome. And as I look around my office, I'm like, yeah, we should probably get started. So thank you very much.
Everybody's been working from home, kind of just trying to